Hello everyone. In today's video, we are going to talk about meat and meat products. In this video, we'll be talking about the grading of these meat products, what is marbling, slaughtering, structure and composition of meat, aging, artificial methods of tenderizing, curing of meat, meat pigments and other color changes associated with it, smoking, and other related topics. So let's start with the video. Meat and meat products, they are generally understood to include the skeletal muscles of animals, and they includes the glands and organs of these animals too, such as tongue, liver, heart, kidney, brain, etc. So when we talk about the principal sources of meat, especially in US, the principal sources of meat include the cattle, which is used as beef, calves, hogs, which are used as hams, porks, and bacon, and sheep, which is used for mutton, and younger sheep are also used. While in some of the other society, they consume a wide variety of animals, which include dogs, kangaroos, reindeers, and reptiles as well. So all these meat products, they along with they are the major sources of meat. However, there are certain byproducts also associated with these meat products from animal slaughters, which are also used by various food, pharmaceutical, and other industries. These include the animal intestine, which is used for sausage, fat, which is rendered into tallow and lard. So, tallow, it generally comes from beef, while the lard, it is produced from rendered pork fat. Hides and wools are used, animal scrap, bone, and bloods, which are used in poultry and other feeds. And gelatin, enzymes, and hormones, which are used in the food and pharmaceutical and other industries. Therefore, the major meat processing companies, they are seldom involved into single business, but they produce a wide variety of products. So, coming to grading, there's a clear need for grading because, like all natural products, meat is very heterogeneous and it varies. And like all the animal carcasses, they are of different size, different breed, and different ages. So, quality grades are based on subjective evaluation of three main factors, which is carcass maturity, degree of fat marbling, and muscle firmness. Color is also considered as one of the important factors, and maturity relates to the tenderness. Like the younger carcasses, they are typically more tender than those from the older carcasses. And marbling is the deposition of fat within the lean muscles, such as muscular fat increases tenderness and palatability. And meat which is excessively dark in color when cut indicates that there is possible stress on the animal prior to slaughter. We'll be discussing upon this and further slides. So these are the major three factors on which the quality grade depends. Next is slaughtering and related practices. So there have been a law in the United States since 1958 that animals which are coming under federal purchase must be rendered insensible to pain before being hoisted by the hind legs and bled. So there is a particular law in US that all the animals which are used for meat sources, they come and the animals which comes under the federal purchase, they must be rendered insensible to pain. Like when during the time of slaughtering, they should not sense pain. Okay, so this practice has been widely being adopted, and an exception exists in some of the slaughtering practices according to the religious rituals. So one of the common human method of rendering an animal insensible to the pain is by striking it on the head with an air or gunpowder driven blunt or penetrating device. This is largely replaced the stunning with a sledgehammer. So in order to follow that particular law, one of the particular human method to render animal insensible is it is struck on the head with the help of an air or gunpowder driven blunt or penetrating device. Another method employs the electric shock, and one of the other method is using a tunnel filled with carbon dioxide through which the animal passes. Each of this method vary, and they have different effect on the hormone and on the muscle chemistry and the meat properties. After stunning, hoisting, and bleeding, Modern slaughterhouse is an effective continuous disassembly line, and all the components of animal body they are utilized, including the hide, the viscera, the blood, and the carcasses. And the skin washed and eviscerated carcass is then moved to a chilling room, and meat is chilled to 2 degrees Celsius in about 36 hours. And this is done to prevent rapid bacterial spoilage. As we all know that meat is highly nutritious, so it would be attacked by bacteria. Therefore, in order to prevent the spoilage, as soon as the carcass is washed, eviscerated, the meat is moved to the chilling room where the temperature is maintained at 2 degrees Celsius for 36 hours in order to prevent the spoilage of meat. So there is a practice of resting animals before slaughtering, and this helps in delay of the bacterial spoilage of meat. So how does this occur? It is one of the important part of meat and meat products, so you need to understand this very clearly, like why it is advised to uh, rest the animals before slaughtering. So animals they store glycogen in their muscles as a source of reserve energy, and as soon as an animal is killed, this glycogen starts converting under the anaerobic conditions in the muscle into the lactic acid, and this formation of lactic acid will lower down the pH, and it would act as a mild preservative. But think if the animal is exercised too much or it is excited before slaughter, then this glycogen is largely consumed, and there is very little amount of glycogen left, which would be converted to lactic acid after slaughtering. And this would lead to the low formation of lactic acid, which will not lower down the pH as much as it would act as a preservative. And therefore, such kind of meats they spoil more quickly. Now, coming to the structure and composition of meat. So, meat has a very complex structure, and one of the major protein which is found in muscle fiber of meat is myosin. The connective tissues they contain two proteins called collagen and elastin. And collagen, on heating in the presence of moisture, it dissolves and yields gelatin. Elastin is tougher, and it usually is a constituent of the ligament. A cooked chicken leg nicely reveals the bundles of muscle fiber. If you look on a cooked chicken leg, you can see the bundles of the muscle fibers which are present. The connective tissue between the bundles of fibers and the gelatinous substance is the connective tissue, which is termed as the collagen. So, when an animal is well fed, the fat penetrates the inside of the muscle fibers, and this is called the marbling, and it makes the muscle more tender. So, it is considered as an important criteria during the selection of the quality grades of meat. So, in addition, the thinner muscle fibers they are more tender than the thicker muscle fibers, and they are more common in younger animals. Therefore, young animals are more preferred because of their increased marbling and tenderness. On cooking, muscle fibers they contract and they become tougher, and cooking also melts the fat and dissolves the collagen. So there's overall effect, which is the increase of the tenderness because of melting of the fat, or because of melting of the fat, the collagen dissolves into soluble gelatin, and there is an increase in the amount of tenderness. Now, aging of meat. As soon as the animal is killed, there is a process that starts, which is called rigor mortis. It starts to set in. And what happens during this process? During this process, there is contraction of muscle fiber, and meat starts to toughen. There is an increase in the toughness of the meat. So, this is because of the loss of glycogen and disappearance of ATP from the muscles of the newly killed animals. If the meat is held cool, rigor mortis usually lasts for about 2 days, and the muscle then again becomes soft, and there is a progressive tenderization of the meat over the several weeks. So, as soon as the animal is killed, rigor mortis starts to happen. It lasts for about 2 days, and then when again it it is over, then the muscle again starts becoming soft and tender over the next several weeks. So the tenderization is believed to be due to the a natural proteolytic enzyme in the meat, which break down the connective tissue between the muscle fibers as well as the muscle fibers themselves. And aging or ripening is usually done at 2 degrees Celsius by hanging the carcasses in cold room from 1 to 4 weeks. And the best flavor or tenderness, it usually develops in about 2 to 4 weeks. So aging process, if it is required to be done in shorter times, then an increased temperature of 20 degrees Celsius is used for 48 hours, because at 2 degrees Celsius it would take a longer time. So if we need urgently, then aging process is slowed down, it is made faster by increasing the temperature. And by increasing the temperature, we can attain aging at aging in 48 hours. So tenderness results, but bacterial slime also develops quickly on the meat at higher temperature. But it is not advised to generally age at higher temperature, because you might get a tenderized meat, but there is an increased chances of formation of bacterial slime at high temperature. So in commercial practice, UV light may be used to keep down the bacterial surface growth during aging at high temperatures. Now, coming to artificial method of tenderizing. So all that which I have talked about was natural method of tenderizing, how when an animal is killed, rigor mortis happen, and then how it, when it is cool, when the particular meat is cooled, after 2 days, the natural tenderization starts to occur because of the proteolytic enzyme. Now, if you want to create an artificial tenderizing effect in the meat, then what are the methods? Cold room storage results in aging or ripening of the meat with tenderizing from the meat's natural enzyme. These are several artificial methods of tenderizing meat to various degrees. So, cold room storage, it helps in the aging or ripening of the meat from its natural enzyme. There are the methods of tenderization as well, such as first one is mechanical means. So meat may be tenderized by the mechanical means. During cold room storage, the carcass, it can be hung in a manner to stretch the muscles and thereby encourage the elongated, thinner muscle fiber. Tenderizing of meat can be obtained by pounding, cutting, or separating and breaking the meat fibers with the help of ultrasonic vibrations as well. So you can tenderize meat by mechanical means. The uh, carcass is hung in a manner so that the muscles are stretched and elongated. Thinner muscle fibers are encouraged. Okay, and another method is use of ultrasonic vibrations. Then meat cuts can tenderized meat cuts can be obtained by pounding, cutting, or separating and breaking meat fibers with the help of ultrasonic vibrations. Next is use of low level of salt. Meat may be tenderized by the use of low level of salt, which solubilizes the meat protein. And as we all know that salt is hygroscopic, so if salt is placed within the meat, it holds water within the mass. And if it is placed on the surface of the meat, it draws the moisture out of the mass to the surface. Phosphate salts, they can also be used, and they are more effective than the common table salt in tenderization of the meat. And next is addition of proteolytic enzymes. Proteolytic enzymes can be added to the meat, such as bromelain from pineapple, or ficin from the figs, papain from papaya, etc., can be used for tenderizing. And electrical stimulation electrical stimulation can be done uh, for after the slaughtering. It is the newest commercial method of meat tenderization, and it involves the application of sufficient voltage to cause rapid muscle contraction, which produce both physical and biological effect in the muscle tissue. And these are associated with the changes in the glycogen level, pH, and enzyme activity. And thus the tenderization is achieved using this processes. Next is curing of meat. So in ancient period, curing was seen as a method of preservation, but curing refers to the modification of meat which affect preservation, flavor, color, and tenderization due to the addition of the curing ingredients. Like in lesser developed countries, still where modern preservation techniques are not available, the main purpose of curing is still the preservation. But curing is mainly used for the purpose of producing unique flavored meat, and there is also a second purpose of preserving the red color of the meat after cooking. So curing is mainly done for these purpose. So what are the principal ingredients which are used for curing? They are sodium chloride, which act as a preservative and it adds flavor as well. Sodium nitrate or sodium nitrite, which helps in curing of the meat and develop unique flavor. Next is development of particular flavor using sugar, which stabilize the color and it adds flavor as well. Spices are also used for flavor. So sodium nitrate and nitrite, which is used, they are used with particular attention and safety. And they also act as preservative and they have antibotulinum activity, and they also fix the red color of the cured meat. Now, coming to the meat pigment and color changes, it is also one of the important part of this particular video. So the chief muscle pigment is a protein called myoglobin. Okay, so particular understanding of meat pigments and their changes as they undergo is important, and therefore I'm saying you to carefully read these parts because there can be a number of questions which can be asked from this particular section. So the chief muscle fiber is a protein called myoglobin, and the physiological function of myoglobin is generally to store oxygen in the animal muscle. It initially has a purple color when it is not carrying an oxygen, but when it is exposed to oxygen, it becomes oxymyoglobin, which has a bright cherry red color. So initially there is a protein called myoglobin. Its main purpose is to store oxygen. When it is not storing oxygen, it has a purple color, but when it starts to carry oxygen, it becomes oxymyoglobin and it becomes uh, cherry, bright cherry red color in appearance. And thus when we firstly cut a fresh meat, it is purple in color, but as soon as it comes in contact with the air, it becomes bright red. So all the large cut, they may be bright red on the surface, but they are more purplish in the interior because of the low availability of oxygen inside. So the desirable bright red color of oxymyoglobin is stable, is not entirely stable, and as it is exposed to air because of excessive oxidation, it converts to metmyoglobin, which is brown in color. So understand the sequence. First of all, there was a protein named myoglobin. Myoglobin initially is purple in color. Its main function is to carry oxygen, and when it carries oxygen, it becomes oxymyoglobin, which is cherry red in color. And as it is exposed to air, it gets, because of excessive oxidation, it gets converted into metmyoglobin, which is brown in color. Now, when well done meat is more denatured and is more brown, meat cured with nitrites are red and they remain red throughout the cooking. Okay, so when fresh meat is cooked, these protein pigments, they are denatured and they produce brown color, and uh, well done meat is more denatured and it becomes more brown. So meat are cured with nitrites, they are usually red, and when nitrite combines with myoglobin, it forms nitric oxide myoglobin, which is pink in color. And this oxide myoglobin on cooking, it converts to nitroso hemochrome, which is pink or red, and it is quite stable. So now when meat is cured through nitrite, it combines with myoglobin to form nitric oxide myoglobin, and which is pink in color. And when nitric oxide myoglobin converts to nitrohemochrome, then it becomes stable and it is again pink or red in color. Okay, so these are the things which you need to remember. Next is, I want to add a particular thing to the previous topic, that cured meats, they are affected differently by oxygen. As I have told initially that um, by coming in contact with the oxygen, the color of the oxymyoglobin, they becomes more red. Like first when you cut, it is purple in color because of the less presence of oxygen, and when the meat is exposed to air, it becomes cherry red in color. So during packaging, films are designed in such a way so that there is a like the supply of oxygen is not so affected. In case of fresh meat, films are used that allow oxygen to penetrate, and it keep myoglobin in the bright red oxymyoglobin form. However, in the cured meats, they are affected differently by oxygen. Like if they are exposed to oxygen, then there will be a development of brown color. Therefore, cured meats, they are generally vacuum packed to exclude air, and they are wrapped in films which are higher barrier to oxygen. And fresh or cured meats, they can develop brown, yellow, and green coloration discolorations from bacterial growth. Okay. Now, coming to the smoking of meats. Smoking was originally employed as a mild preservative, but today it is used mostly for the flavor contribution. Smoking was done primarily in in large smokehouse by hanging meat over burning hardwood logs or wood chips. If a smoky room is used for this, then it should be at about 57 degrees Celsius to give the meat an internal temperature of about 52 degrees Celsius. And smoking usually takes 18 to 24 hours. However, if it is a case of pork product, and if the meat cooked or before smoking or will be cooked afterward, if the meat is to be a ready to eat product, then without additional heat, then the smoking, it must bring pork products to an internal temperature of 58 degrees Celsius in order to ensure destruction of trichinosis parasite. So there are several ways to generate smoke remotely and then circulate it into a smoke room or smoke tunnel. In addition, smoke can be generated with special devices without fire by high-speed friction contact with the wood. And there are also solutions of the flavor chemicals which can be used, and they are applied without the direct use of smoke. Now, sausages and table-ready meats. Cured meats, especially, and uncured meats to a lesser extent, find their way into enormous quantities of sausage products. Classification of sausage types is confusing, but generally takes into account whether the ground meat is fresh or cured, and whether the sausage is cooked or uncooked, smoked or unsmoked, dried or not, and fermented. There are frankfurters, which generally are mildly cured, cooked, and smoked. Fresh pork sausage, which is not cooked, smoked, or cured in manufacture, and Italian salami, which is cured, fermented, and dried. So the cured meats and uncured meats find their way into quantities of sausage product, and their classification depends upon whether they are fresh or cured, or whether they are smoked or not smoked, whether they are cooked or uncooked. Many sausages are prepared within a casing, and casings are made from clean animal intestine. They are of different sizes, and natural casings are expensive and non-uniform, and therefore artificial casings are produced. And these casings are extruded to use of regenerated collagen, cellulose materials, or plastic films. The casings hold the ground meat together and prevent excessive moisture and fat losses during cooking and smoking operations. And large sauces such as bologna may have the casing removed, and after the cooking and smoking, and then they are sliced and packaged, and these products are known as the table ready meats. So when large sausages, they have their casing removed after the process of smoking and cooking, and when they are sliced and packaged, then these products are known as the table ready meats. Now, frankfurter manufacture. So franks, they are mainly made from ground cured beef, and they are frankfurter meat emulsions. The emulsion is pumped into great length of artificial casings, and they are cooked by passing hot water or steam, and they are hung for smoking. And skinless franks are made in casings which are designed to be removed after cooking and smoking, and then after smoking, the casing is mechanically peeled, and the shape of it is set, and within the casing, the during the cooking, the shape of the particular frankfurter is set during cooking itself. Now coming to the freezing of meat. So meat may be frozen and they are held in frozen stage for months. In the case of pork and fatty meats, they can even, and for years in case of beef. Like the pork and fatty meats, they can be stored for months in frozen storage, and the beef, it can be stored up to an year. Storage time for pork and fatty meats is limited because of the gradual development of oxidized fat flavors and other frozen foods. To assure quality demands that the meat be quick frozen and then not thawed. We all know that once the meat is frozen and once it is thawed, we cannot again, we should not again freeze it. To so Cured meat or sausages, they are commercially frozen since salt in their formulation increases the rate of fat oxidation and development of rancid flavors. Frozen storage, they alter the flavor of the seasoning spices used in the sausage products. Now, coming to the storage of fresh meat. So, fresh meat, they are usually stored with the help of vacuum packaging and modified air packaging. So, MAP, it utilizes sealed high barrier packages in which the air has been replaced with a mixture of gases, which will reduce the rate of deterioration in the meat. And the method, that is vacuum packaging, is also being used for the storage of fresh meats. They are vacuum packed in high barrier bags and paperboard boxes for shipment to retailers, where they are further reduced to different sizes, and then they are repacked in the similar kinds of trays, and they are overwrapped with the packages. So beef and pork, they can maybe vacuum packed in high barrier films, and they are stored under 0 degrees Celsius, and they can survive up to 3 weeks. Last is cooking of meat. So cooking can make meat more or less tender than the original raw cut. When meat is cooked, there are three tenderizing influences. Fat melts and contributes to tenderness. Connective collagen dissolves in the hot liquid and becomes soft gelatin, and muscle fibers separate and the tissue becomes more tender. So these three tenderizing influences occur during cooking, and there are also two toughening influences which also occur. Overheating can cause the muscle fiber to contract and the meat to shrink and become tougher, and moisture evaporates and the dried out tissue become tougher. So during cooking, there are two effects. The first three, they influence tenderizing, and the other two, they influence toughening. So lower cooking temperature for longer period of time, they produce more tender meat than the higher temperature for shorter period of time. Uh, so for tender meat, you should use lower cooking temperatures because higher temperature often leads to increased toughness. The nutritional value of cooked meat generally remains very high. Normal cooking procedures do a little change to the nutritive value of protein. However, some minerals are also lost, but on the other hand, cooking dissolves some calcium from bone and also enriches the meat in this mineral. The B vitamins are heat sensitive, so cooking to weld will destroy 10% of them. Even to weld and stage, most meat retains about 70% of the B vitamins, which is present in the uncooked meat. So there's not much loss. So that was all about meat and meat products. I hope you find the video informative. So if you like the video, please do like, share, and subscribe to Food Tech Section. Thank you.